The $200,000 grand piano in the marble atrium of Hale Industries was never supposed to be touched during work hours. It was a trophy, a centerpiece, a symbol of power sitting silent in a fortress of glass and steel. But at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, someone broke that rule. When CEO Victoria Hale heard music drifting through her headquarters, she stormed down 3 flights of stairs, ready to fire whoever dared touch her piano. What she found instead would shatter everything she thought she knew about success, sacrifice, and the dreams we bury to survive. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The city was still waking up when Ethan Cole pushed his maintenance cart through the employee entrance of Hale Industries. 6:15 a.m. The building stretched 47 stories into the Chicago sky, a monument of glass and ambition that reflected the sunrise like a promise. Inside, everything gleamed, marble floors so polished you could see your reflection, chrome elevators that moved in perfect silence, air that smelled faintly of expensive coffee, and leather furniture. This was the kingdom of Victoria Hale, one of the most powerful women in corporate America. Her company had revolutionized sustainable energy technology, turned billion-dollar losses into victories, and crushed competitors who underestimated her. But Ethan wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about Lily. His 10-year-old daughter had been up late the night before, crying over her piano practice. The piece her teacher assigned was too difficult. Her small fingers kept stumbling over the complicated runs. She'd slammed the keys in frustration and run to her room. "I hate piano," she'd shouted through tears. Ethan had sat outside her door for 20 minutes, not knowing what to say. Because he understood. He understood what it felt like when your fingers couldn't translate what your heart was trying to express. When the music in your head refused to flow through your hands. When the gap between dream and reality felt impossibly wide. His mother had been a concert pianist. Not famous, but talented enough to fill small venues with magic. She'd taught him everything she knew, the theory, the technique, the soul of it. Music isn't about perfect notes, she used to say. It's about honest ones. But she'd died when Ethan was 17. Cancer, fast and merciless. And with her went the music. Ethan had tried to keep playing, tried to honor her memory. But between working 3 jobs to support himself, then later working to support Lily after her mother left them both, the piano became something he could only touch in stolen moments. Late at night when Lily was asleep. Early mornings before anyone else was awake. Fragments of a life that used to be whole. Now, as he guided his cart across the pristine lobby of Hale Industries, Ethan's eyes drifted toward the grand piano sitting in the center of the atrium. It was breathtaking. A Steinway Model D. 9 feet of polished ebony perfection. The kind of instrument most pianists dreamed about, but never got to touch. Ethan had been working night shift maintenance at Hale Industries for 2 years. He'd cleaned every floor, emptied every trash can, polished every surface. The work was honest. It paid enough to keep Lily fed, clothed, and in piano lessons. But sometimes, when the building was empty and silent, he would stop beside that piano. Just look at it. Never touch. Until today. Today felt different. Maybe it was Lily's tears from the night before. Maybe it was the weight of too many dreams deferred. Maybe it was just the way the morning light hit the keys, making them glow like an invitation. Ethan set down his cleaning supplies. He glanced around the empty atrium. The building wouldn't come alive for another 30 minutes. The first wave of employees wouldn't arrive until 7 a.m. Management didn't show up until 8. He had time. Just a minute. Just one song. He sat down on the bench. The leather was soft, expensive. His work-worn hands looked out of place, hovering above those perfect ivory keys. Ethan took a breath and played. 3 floors above, Victoria Hale was already at war. Her corner office overlooked the entire city, a strategic position for someone who built an empire by staying 3 steps ahead of everyone else. The sun was barely up, but she'd been working for an hour already. Phone calls with London, emails to Tokyo, a presentation that needed to be perfect before the board meeting at 9. Victoria didn't sleep much. Sleeping felt like surrender. At 52, she'd spent 3 decades clawing her way to the top of an industry that tried everything to keep her down. Too young, too female, too ambitious, too uncompromising. She'd proved them all wrong, but it cost her. A marriage that imploded under the weight of her schedule, friendships that faded into polite Christmas cards, a relationship with her own father that ended in bitter silence before he died. She told herself it was worth it. Success required sacrifice. Her assistant Jennifer knocked softly on the door. "The quarterly reports are ready," Jennifer said, "and Marcus from legal needs 5 minutes about the Singapore contract." Victoria nodded without looking up from her laptop. "Tell Marcus I'll call him at 7:30, and I need the environmental impact study on my desk before—" She stopped. "Do you hear that?" Jennifer frowned. "Hear what?" Victoria tilted her head, music, faint, delicate, drifting up through the ventilation system like smoke. Piano music. "Someone's playing the atrium piano," Victoria said slowly. Jennifer's eyes widened. "At this hour? That's not possible. The building's barely open." Victoria stood. Her expression hardened into something cold and sharp. That piano was hers. A statement piece. Part of the carefully crafted aesthetic that told clients and competitors exactly who they were dealing with. It wasn't a toy. It wasn't for public use. During the annual charity gala, they hired professional pianists to perform. During corporate events, it was background ambiance played by someone vetted and paid. But at 6:45 in the morning, someone was taking liberties. "Come with me," Victoria said. They took the executive elevator down. As they descended, the music grew clearer, richer, more complex. Victoria's jaw tightened. Whoever was playing knew what they were doing. The elevator doors opened onto the mezzanine level overlooking the atrium. A handful of early employees had already gathered along the railing, looking down, whispering, smiling. Victoria moved through them like a blade and stopped at the railing. Below, in the center of the marble floor, sat a man in a maintenance uniform. His cart was parked nearby. A mop leaned against the wall. His eyes were closed. His fingers moved across the keys with a confidence that didn't match his position. The melody was extraordinary. Victoria felt something twist in her chest. She knew this piece. Her father used to play it. Sunday mornings in their small house outside Boston. Before the money. Before the company. Before everything became about winning. Her father at an old upright piano, sunlight streaming through thin curtains, playing Chopin like he was sharing a secret with the world. Victoria had been 7 years old, sitting on the floor beside him, watching his hands dance. "Why do you play sad songs, Daddy?" "They're not sad, sweetheart. They're true." She hadn't understood then. But standing here now, listening to this stranger play the same piece in her corporate fortress, she understood perfectly. The music was true. It didn't hide, didn't pretend, didn't perform. It simply was. And it hurt to hear. Victoria's hand tightened on the railing. "Who is that?" she asked quietly. Jennifer checked something on her tablet. "Ethan Cole, night shift maintenance. He's been with us for 2 years." 2 years? "Yes, ma'am." Victoria watched him play. The way he leaned into the difficult passages. The way his shoulders relaxed during the gentle moments. The way he seemed to disappear into the music like it was the only real thing in the world. She felt anger rising. Not at him, at herself. For forgetting what this felt like. For building a life so loud with ambition that she'd stopped hearing anything beautiful. The song ended. Silence filled the atrium like water rushing into a vacuum. Ethan opened his eyes slowly, as if waking from a dream. Then he noticed the people watching. His face went pale. He stood quickly, stepping away from the piano like it might burn him. Victoria moved before she could think. She walked down the wide staircase, her heels clicking against marble. Every employee turned to watch. They knew that walk, that expression. Someone was about to get destroyed. Ethan saw her coming. He straightened, hands clasped in front of him, waiting for the axe to fall. Victoria stopped 3 feet away. Up close, she could see the details. Calluses on his fingers, tiredness around his eyes, the careful posture of someone used to being invisible. "That piano," Victoria said, her voice sharp and controlled, "is not for staff use." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "I'm sorry." "Do you have any idea what that instrument costs?" "No, ma'am." $200,000. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "I was careful with it," he said. "That's not the point." I understand. Victoria crossed her arms. You work here? Maintenance? Yes, ma'am. Night shift? Yes, ma'am. Then explain to me why you thought it was acceptable to sit down at a restricted instrument in the middle of my building during work hours. Ethan met her eyes. His gaze was steady, not defiant, not ashamed, just honest. Because I needed to, he said simply. The answer caught Victoria off guard. Several employees nearby tried to hide smiles. You needed to? Victoria repeated. Yes, ma'am. That's not an explanation. Ethan glanced at the piano. My daughter's struggling with her piano lessons, he said. She was crying last night because she can't get the notes right. I wanted to remember what it feels like when the music works, so maybe I could help her remember too. Silence. Victoria felt something crack inside her carefully constructed armor. You have a daughter? Yes, ma'am. Lily. She's 10. And she takes piano? Yes, ma'am. It was her choice. I didn't push her. Why piano? Ethan smiled faintly. She says it makes her feel close to her grandmother. Your mother? Yes, ma'am. She passed away before Lily was born, but I told Lily stories about her, about the music, about how my mom could make a room full of strangers cry just by playing the truth. Victoria's throat tightened. She understood that loss, the weight of carrying someone's memory, trying to honor them while moving forward. And you? Victoria asked. Do you play professionally? No, ma'am. But you play like someone who could. Ethan shrugged. Life doesn't always go the way we plan. Victoria knew that truth intimately. She looked around the atrium. Every employee on every floor was watching now, waiting to see what she would do. Fire him, humiliate him, make an example? That's what the old Victoria would have done. The woman who built walls so high nothing could touch her. But something about this moment felt different. Maybe it was the music still echoing in her memory. Maybe it was the way Ethan stood there, not trying to manipulate her, not making excuses, just being honest about a moment of weakness that turned into something beautiful. Maybe it was the ghost of her father's hands on piano keys. You said your daughter's struggling? Victoria asked. Ethan nodded. The piece is too advanced for her level, but her teacher believes she can do it. I'm not sure if that's encouragement or cruelty. What piece? Clair de Lune. Victoria nearly laughed. Of course it was. Debussy's masterpiece. Beautiful. Impossible. The kind of music that breaks your heart even when played perfectly. That is advanced for a 10-year-old, Victoria said. Yes, ma'am. Victoria made a decision. It surprised her even as she spoke. Bring her here, Ethan blinked. I'm sorry? Your daughter. Bring her here on Saturday. Why? Because this building is empty on weekends. Because that piano deserves to be played by someone who actually cares about music. And because maybe if she plays in a space like this, she'll remember why she started. Ethan stared at her. You're serious? I don't joke about piano, Mr. Cole. A slow smile spread across his face. Thank you, he said softly. Really? Thank you. Victoria nodded curtly. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She sat down on the piano bench. Her pencil skirt and designer blouse looked absurd next to the instrument. Her manicured nails hovered over the keys like weapons. Play it again, she said. Ethan hesitated. The Chopin? Yes. Why? Victoria's voice dropped to something almost vulnerable. Because my father used to play that piece, and I haven't heard it in 20 years. Understanding passed between them. Two people carrying ghosts, two people who buried their music under the weight of survival. Ethan sat beside her on the bench. The employees leaned forward. This was unprecedented. Victoria Hale, the Ice Queen, the untouchable CEO, sitting shoulder to shoulder with a janitor at a piano. I'll play the melody, Ethan said quietly. You take the harmony? Victoria's fingers trembled slightly. I haven't played since I was a teenager. It's like riding a bike. That's a lie people tell themselves. Ethan smiled. Then let's find out together. He played the opening notes, gentle, inviting. Victoria closed her eyes and remembered, her father's hands guiding hers. Don't think, sweetheart, just feel, her mother's voice from the kitchen. Play it again, you two. It's beautiful. The smell of Sunday breakfast, the warmth of being loved, the simplicity of a life before ambition turned her into armor. Her fingers found the keys, clumsy at first, uncertain, but then the muscle memory kicked in, and she played. Not perfectly, not even well, but honestly. The two of them together, a CEO and a janitor, a woman who forgot how to feel and a man who never stopped, created something fragile and real in the middle of a building designed to crush weakness. The employees didn't applaud this time. They just listened. Because what they were hearing wasn't a performance. It was two people remembering who they used to be. When the song ended, Victoria sat very still. Tears she didn't know she was holding slipped down her cheeks. She wiped them away quickly. "I'm sorry," she said. "That was honest," Ethan finished. Victoria laughed. It was a sound she hadn't made in years. Real laughter, not the practiced corporate chuckle, not the sharp bark of victory, just joy. "Your mother taught you well," she said. "She did. My father tried. I didn't listen." "You listened. You just forgot." Victoria looked at him. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Stay this kind after everything life takes from you." Ethan thought about that, about his mother's death, about Lily's mother walking out, about working 3 jobs and still barely making rent, about dreams that turned into dust. "I have a daughter who still believes in magic," he said finally. "I can't let her see me stop believing too." Victoria's chest ached. She'd never had children, never let herself want them. Success required sacrifice, remember? But sitting here now, she wondered what she'd actually sacrificed. And for what? Money she didn't spend? Power she couldn't share? A legacy with no one to inherit it? She stood abruptly. Back to business. Back to armor. "Saturday," she said. 10 a.m. Security will have your names. Ethan stood too. "We'll be here." "And Mr. Cole?" "Yes, ma'am?" Victoria's expression softened just slightly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For the reminder." She didn't explain. She didn't need to. Ethan understood. As Victoria walked back toward the elevators, the employees parted like water. They just witnessed something impossible. Their untouchable CEO had cried, had played piano with a janitor, had laughed, had been human. Jennifer hurried to catch up. "Ma'am, the Marcus call, reschedule it. The quarterly reports, later." "But the board meeting..." Victoria stopped walking. "Jennifer, when was the last time you did something just because it made you feel alive?" Jennifer blinked. I don't know." "Figure it out," Victoria said. "Life's too short to only live in spreadsheets." She continued to the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of Ethan returning to his maintenance cart, back to invisibility, back to the life that kept him from the piano. But Saturday, she thought, Saturday would be different. Ethan finished his shift at 2 p.m. His body ached from 8 hours of cleaning, but his heart felt strangely light. He thought about calling Lily's school, pulling her out early, telling her about the piano, about Saturday, about the impossible thing that happened this morning, but he decided to wait. Better to surprise her. He picked her up at 3:15 p.m., same as always. She ran out of the school building with her backpack bouncing, her dark hair flying. "Daddy!" He caught her in a hug. "Hey, Bug, how was school?" "Boring. Math is stupid. And Emily said my shoes are ugly." "Your shoes are perfect." "That's what dads have to say." Ethan smiled. They walked to the bus stop hand in hand. "Piano lesson today?" he asked. Lily's face fell. "Yeah." "You ready?" "No, I hate that song. I'm going to tell Mrs. Chen I quit." "You don't want to quit." "Yes, I do." "Lily." She looked up at him with those serious brown eyes, so much like her grandmother's. "What if I'm not good enough?" she asked quietly. Ethan's heart broke. He knelt down to her level right there on the sidewalk. "You are good enough," he said firmly. "You know how I know?" "How?" "Because being good at piano isn't about perfect notes. It's about honest ones. Your grandma taught me that. But I keep messing up." "Everybody messes up. That's how you learn." "Mrs. Chen doesn't mess up. Mrs. Chen practiced for 30 years. You've practiced for 2. Lily considered this. Did you mess up when you were learning? All the time. Really? Really? I once played an entire recital with the sheet music upside down. Lily giggled. No, you didn't. I absolutely did. Your grandma laughed so hard she cried. Was she mad? Not even a little. She said mistakes make the best stories. Lily smiled. That beautiful smile that made every hardship worth it. Okay, she said. I'll try one more week. That's my girl. They took the bus to Mrs. Chen's studio, a small converted garage in a neighborhood 3 miles from their apartment. Mrs. Chen was 70, tiny, and terrifying. She'd been teaching piano for 50 years and didn't tolerate excuses. But she saw something in Lily. The same thing Ethan's mother had seen in him. Potential. You're late, Mrs. Chen said as they arrived. 3 minutes, Ethan replied. 3 minutes is late. Lily set down her backpack and went to the piano. Mrs. Chen looked at Ethan. She's been struggling. I know. The piece is hard. I know. She wants to quit. I know. Are you going to let her? Ethan met the old woman's eyes. No. Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly. Good. Quitting is easy. Fighting is how we grow. She turned to Lily. From the top, slowly. Lily's small fingers found the opening notes of Clair de Lune. Hesitant, uncertain. She made it 8 bars before stumbling. Again? Mrs. Chen said. Lily tried again. Same mistake. Again. Again. By the 5th attempt, tears were forming in Lily's eyes. Ethan wanted to intervene, to tell Mrs. Chen to ease up, to protect his daughter from frustration. But he didn't, because he knew this was necessary. The struggle was part of the music. On the 6th attempt, something clicked. Lily's fingers found the rhythm. The notes flowed. For 16 beautiful bars, she played it perfectly. Then she stumbled again. But Mrs. Chen was smiling. There, the old woman said. You felt it, didn't you? Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. It felt right. Because it was. That feeling, that's what we're chasing. Not perfection, connection. After the lesson, as they walked to the bus stop, Lily was quiet. You okay, Bug? Ethan asked. Yeah. What are you thinking about? Mrs. Chen said I almost had it. You did. Will you help me practice? Ethan's throat tightened. Their apartment didn't have a piano. They had a $40 keyboard Ethan bought at a garage sale. The keys stuck. The sound was tinny, but it was all they could afford. Of course I'll help, he said. That night, after dinner, they practiced together. Ethan played the melody on his phone while Lily tried to match it on the keyboard, over and over. Mistakes and corrections, frustration and breakthrough. Finally, at 9 p.m., Lily yawned. Bedtime, Bug. 5 more minutes? You said that 20 minutes ago. She smiled sleepily. Okay. Ethan tucked her into bed. Daddy? Yeah? Do you think Grandma would be proud of me? Ethan's heart squeezed. She would be so proud she'd probably cry. Really? Really? You know what she'd say? What? Ethan used his best impression of his mother's voice. That's my granddaughter. Listen to her play. She's got magic in her fingers. Lily giggled. You sound silly. Your grandma was a little silly. I wish I could have met her. Me too, Bug. Me too. Lily's eyes drifted closed. Love you, Daddy. Love you more. Ethan sat beside her bed until her breathing deepened into sleep. Then he went to the kitchen. Their apartment was small, 1 bedroom that Lily had, a living room where Ethan slept on a pull-out couch, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, but it was theirs. He made coffee and sat at the tiny table. Tomorrow he'd tell Lily about Saturday, about the piano at Hale Industries, about the chance to play something beautiful in a space that deserved it. But tonight, he just sat in the quiet, thinking about his mother, about how she'd sacrificed everything to give him music, about how he was trying to do the same for Lily, about how dreams don't die. They just wait. His phone buzzed, an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello? Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, professional, familiar. Yes? This is Jennifer Park. assistant to Victoria Hale. Ms. Hale asked me to confirm Saturday's arrangement. Oh, yes, we'll be there. 10 a.m.? Yes, ma'am. Perfect. I'll have security add your names to the visitor list. You'll need to bring ID. Of course. A pause. Mr. Cole? Yes? Ms. Hale also wanted me to tell you something. What's that? Jennifer's voice softened. She said thank you for reminding her what music sounds like. Ethan smiled. Tell her she's welcome. After they hung up, Ethan sat in the quiet for a long time. Outside, the city hummed, cars passed, sirens wailed. Life continued its relentless march forward. But inside this small apartment, something had shifted. For the first time in years, Ethan felt like maybe, just maybe, the music wasn't over. Maybe it was just waiting for the right moment to begin again. He looked at the cheap keyboard against the wall, at Lily's sheet music scattered on the couch, at the life he'd built from scraps and sacrifice. And he smiled. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Saturday morning arrived wrapped in October sunshine that turned Chicago's skyline into a postcard. Ethan woke at 6 out of habit, his body still programmed for night shifts even on his days off. He lay on the pull-out couch listening to the city wake up, wondering if he'd made a mistake telling Lily about today. She'd been so excited when he finally told her Thursday night that she couldn't sleep. She'd talked about it nonstop at school during dinner while brushing her teeth. The fancy building, the expensive piano, the CEO who looked scary but wasn't really. What if I mess up? Lily had asked last night, her voice small in the darkness. Then you mess up, Ethan had replied. Ms. Hale didn't invite you there to judge you. She invited you to play. But what if she changes her mind when she hears me? She won't. How do you know? Ethan had thought about Victoria Hale sitting beside him at that piano, tears on her face, hands trembling as she remembered how to play. Because she understands what music means, he'd said, and people who understand that don't care about perfect. They care about real. Now, watching the morning light creep across their small living room, Ethan hoped he was right. He made breakfast quietly. Pancakes shaped like music notes that came out looking more like blobs, but Lily wouldn't care. She loved pancakes no matter what shape they were. At 7:30, her door creaked open. She appeared in her pajamas, hair sticking up in 17 different directions, eyes still puffy with sleep. Is it time? She asked. Not yet, Bug. We don't leave until 9:30. That's forever from now. That's 2 hours. Like I said, forever. Ethan smiled and guided her to the table. She ate her pancakes slowly, deliberately, like someone trying to make time move faster through sheer force of will. Can I wear my blue dress? She asked. The one from Aunt Sarah's wedding? Yeah. That's pretty fancy for piano playing. It's a fancy piano. Ethan couldn't argue with that logic. At 9:15, they were both dressed. Lily in her blue dress, with her hair brushed smooth and pulled back with a clip. Ethan in his only pair of nice jeans and a button-down shirt his mother had given him 15 years ago that somehow still fit. They took the train downtown. Lily pressed her face against the window, watching the city scroll past. Her knee bounced nervously. Her fingers drummed silent scales on her leg. You're going to be great, Ethan said. You have to say that. I mean it. What if my hands get sweaty? Then wipe them on your dress. Daddy! What? It's practical. She giggled, despite her nerves. The train pulled into the station 3 blocks from Hale Industries. They walked through streets that smelled like coffee and fresh bread from the bakeries opening for Saturday morning customers. The October air was crisp and clean. As they rounded the corner, the building came into view. Lily stopped walking. Wow, she whispered. The tower stretched into the sky like something from a dream, glass and steel catching the sunlight, a monument to ambition and success. That's where you work? Lily asked. Yeah. It's so big. Wait until you see the inside. They walked through the main entrance. The security guard, Marcus, who usually worked weekdays, looked up from his desk and smiled. Ethan, didn't expect to see you on a Saturday. Special occasion. This is my daughter, Lily. Marcus's eyes lit up. The piano player. Ms. Hale told me to expect you. IDs, please? Ethan handed over his driver's license. Marcus checked something on his computer, nodded, and printed 2 visitor badges. You're all set. Atrium's open. Ms. Hale said to make yourselves comfortable. She's not here yet? Ethan asked. Not yet, but she called this morning to confirm everything was ready for you. They took the elevator to the main floor. The doors opened onto the massive atrium, and Lily's hand tightened around Ethan's. The space was even more impressive, empty. Their footsteps echoed on marble. Morning light streamed through the glass ceiling, making everything glow. And in the center, like a jewel in a crown, sat the piano. Lily approached it slowly, reverently. Can I touch it? She whispered. That's why we're here. She reached out one finger and pressed middle C. The note rang through the empty space, pure and perfect. It sounds different than Mrs. Chen's piano, Lily said. Better? Just different. Bigger, somehow. Ethan understood. Every piano had its own voice. This one spoke with power and precision. Want to try the piece? He asked. Lily's eyes went wide. Now? Why not? We have the place to ourselves. She looked around the enormous atrium, then back at the piano. I'm scared, she admitted. Of what? What if I disappoint you? Ethan knelt down beside her. Lily, listen to me. You could sit at this piano and play nothing but wrong notes for an hour, and I would still be the proudest dad in the world. You know why? Why? Because you're trying. Because you didn't give up even when it was hard. Because you're standing here in this beautiful building about to do something brave. That's what matters. Lily threw her arms around his neck. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Bug. She pulled back and wiped her eyes. Okay, I'll try. She climbed onto the bench. Her feet didn't quite reach the pedals, so Ethan adjusted the seat height slightly. Her small hands spread across the keys. She took a breath and began to play Clair de Lune. The opening notes floated through the atrium like morning mist. Soft, delicate, uncertain at first, but growing more confident with each measure. Ethan watched his daughter disappear into the music the same way he did, the same way his mother had. It was genetic, he thought, this need to translate emotion into sound. Lily made it through the first section without any major mistakes. When she reached the part that always tripped her up in practice, she slowed down, thought through each note. Her tongue poked out slightly in concentration, and she played through it, not perfectly. A few notes were hesitant, the rhythm wavered, but she played through it. When she finished the passage and moved into the next section, Ethan saw her shoulders relax. She'd cleared the mountain, the rest was downhill. The music swelled and faded, rose and fell, painted pictures in the air, and then it was over. The final notes hung in the silence like stars. Lily turned on the bench, her face flushed. I did it, she said, disbelieving. You absolutely did. I only messed up twice. I only counted one mess up. Really? Really? Slow clapping echoed from somewhere above them. They both looked up. Victoria Hale stood on the mezzanine level, leaning against the railing. She wore jeans and a cashmere sweater instead of her usual armor of business suits. Her hair was down. She looked younger somehow, more human. That was beautiful, Victoria called down. Lily's face went bright red. Victoria descended the stairs with the same measured grace she used for everything. As she approached, Ethan noticed she was carrying a bag from an expensive music store downtown. Ms. Hale, Ethan said, thank you for this. Victoria, please. We played piano together. I think we're past formalities. She turned her attention to Lily. You must be Lily. Lily nodded shyly. Your dad talks about you constantly, Victoria said. He does? Every time I've seen him this week, he's mentioned you. My daughter this, my daughter that. It's actually quite annoying. She said it with a small smile that made Lily giggle. He talks about you too, Lily said. Ethan's eyes widened. Lily? He said you're really scary, but also really nice. Victoria laughed, a real laugh. Did he now? He said you helped him remember why he loves piano. Victoria's expression softened. Well, he helped me remember too. She held out the bag. I brought you something. Lily took it carefully and looked inside. Her eyes went huge. She pulled out a leather-bound book of Debussy's complete works, professional edition, the kind serious pianists used. This is for me? Lily whispered. If you want it. Why? Victoria seemed to consider the question carefully. Because when I was your age, my father gave me my first real music book. I lost it somewhere along the way to becoming successful. But watching you play just now reminded me how important it is to have beautiful things that inspire you. Lily hugged the book to her chest. Thank you. You're welcome. Now I have a question for you. Okay? Do you like your piano teacher? Lily thought about Mrs. Chen, the strict schedules, the endless repetition, the way she never accepted excuses. She's really hard, Lily said honestly. But yeah, I like her. Good. Hard teachers make great students. Victoria glanced at Ethan. I was thinking, if you're interested, I could arrange for Lily to come here on Saturday mornings to practice. The building's empty, the acoustics are incredible, and she'd have access to an instrument that responds to technique in a way most pianos don't. Ethan blinked. That's incredibly generous. It's practical. This piano sits here unused 6 days a week. Seems wasteful. I couldn't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Can I, Daddy, please? Ethan looked at his daughter's hopeful face, at the piano, at Victoria standing there with an expression that suggested she needed this as much as they did. If you're sure, he said slowly. I'm sure. Then yes. Thank you. Victoria nodded briskly, back to business mode. Marcus at security will have your names. Every Saturday, 10 to noon. If you need more time, just let me know. Why are you doing this? Ethan asked quietly. Victoria met his eyes. Because Tuesday morning, when you played that Chopin, you reminded me that buildings full of numbers can still have souls. And because I think if my father were alive, he'd want me to help someone like Lily. Lily had already climbed back onto the bench and was paging through her new music book. Can I try another piece? She asked. Absolutely, Victoria said. Lily played something simpler this time. A short Chopin prelude. Her fingers moved more confidently now, emboldened by her earlier success. Victoria sat down on the marble steps to listen. Ethan joined her. You didn't have to come in today, he said quietly. I wanted to. Why? Victoria watched Lily play. I've been thinking a lot this week. About choices. About what I sacrificed to build this empire. Having regrets? Maybe. Or maybe just wondering if success and happiness are actually the same thing. Ethan knew that question intimately. I work as a janitor, he said. I'm broke most of the time. I sleep on a couch, but I have Lily. So by most people's standards, I'm a failure, but I've never felt like one. Because you have something worth living for. Yeah. I'm not sure I can say the same. The admission hung between them. Lily finished the prelude and immediately started another piece. She doesn't get tired, does she? Victoria observed. Not when it comes to music. She has a gift. She has passion. There's a difference. Victoria considered that. Your mother, did she perform professionally? Some. Mostly she taught. She said performing was about ego, but teaching was about legacy. Smart woman. The smartest. Do you miss her? Ethan smiled sadly. Every single day. They sat in silence for a while, just listening. The music filled the vast space with warmth. Finally, Victoria spoke again. I fired someone on Thursday. Ethan glanced at her. Okay. He'd been with the company for 12 years. Good employee. Met every target, but he made one mistake on a contract negotiation and I cut him loose. Why are you telling me this? Victoria's jaw tightened. Because after I did it, I came down here and looked at this piano, and I thought about you playing it, about taking a risk just to feel something real. And I realized that I've built my entire life around eliminating risk, around perfection, around never making mistakes. That sounds exhausting. It is. So what are you going to do about it? Victoria looked at him. I don't know. That's the terrifying part. Before Ethan could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and frowned at the screen. Unknown number again. Sorry, I should take this. He stood and walked a few steps away. Hello? Ethan Cole? A man's voice, formal, slightly urgent. Yes? This is Robert Chen. I'm Jennifer Chen's husband. She's your daughter's piano teacher? Ethan's heart jumped. Is something wrong? No, nothing wrong, but Jennifer asked me to call you. She has a student recital scheduled for next month, and one of her advanced students had to drop out due to family emergency. She was wondering if Lily might be interested in taking the spot. Lily? But she's only been playing for 2 years. Jennifer said Lily's been making remarkable progress, and the recital includes students of all levels. It would be good experience. Ethan thought about Lily's struggles with Claire de Lune, about her tears and frustration. What would she have to play? That would be up to Lily and Jennifer, but Jennifer mentioned Claire de Lune was a possibility. Ethan's stomach nodded. That piece is really hard for her. Jennifer believes she can do it. The recital is 5 weeks away. That's enough time. Can I think about it? Of course. Just let Jennifer know by Monday. After they hung up, Ethan stood for a moment watching Lily play. She looked so small at that enormous piano, so vulnerable. Victoria appeared beside him. Everything okay? Lily's teacher wants her to perform in a recital, playing Claire de Lune. That's wonderful. That's terrifying. She's not ready. How do you know? Because I hear her practice every night. She struggles with it. Victoria smiled slightly. Struggling with something and not being ready for it aren't the same thing. Sometimes the best performances come from people who are scared but do it anyway. You sound like my mother. I'll take that as a compliment. Lily finished her song and spun around on the bench. That was so fun. Can I play another one? Actually, Bug, we should probably head out soon, Ethan said. Oh, already? It's been almost 2 hours. Lily looked genuinely surprised. Really? Victoria stood. You can come back next Saturday. Same time. Promise? Promise. Lily jumped off the bench and hugged Victoria without warning. The CEO stiffened, clearly not used to physical affection, but then slowly, carefully, she hugged back. Thank you for letting me play your piano, Lily said. Thank you for reminding me it should be played. As they gathered their things to leave, Victoria pulled Ethan aside. The recital, you should let her do it. What if she fails? What if she doesn't? But, Ethan, I've spent 30 years eliminating every risk from my life. And you know what I have to show for it? An empty building and a piano I was too afraid to touch. Don't teach your daughter to play it safe. Teach her to be brave. Ethan looked at Lily, who was carefully placing her new music book into her backpack with reverent hands. You're probably right. I'm definitely right. I didn't become CEO by being wrong. He smiled. I'll talk to her about it. They took the elevator down together. In the lobby, Marcus waved goodbye. See you next week, Lily. Bye, Mr. Marcus. Outside, the October sunshine felt warmer somehow. The city looked friendlier. Ethan and Lily walked toward the train station hand in hand. Daddy? Yeah, Bug? That was the best morning ever. Yeah? Yeah, can we really go back next week? Victoria said we could. She's nice. I like her. Me too. They boarded the train. Lily pulled out her new music book and started paging through it, her eyes wide with possibilities. Daddy, look at this one. It's called Arabesque. Can I learn it? If you want to. And this one, Reverie. That's a pretty word. It means daydream. I like that. Ethan watched her lose herself in the pages, her earlier nervousness completely gone, replaced by pure joy. Lily? Yeah? Mrs. Chen's husband called. She wants you to play in a recital next month. Lily looked up sharply. A real recital? Yeah. In front of people? Yeah. Her face went through several emotions at once. Excitement, fear, pride, panic. What would I play? Claire de Lune. Silence. Lily looked down at her hands. I'm not good enough at it yet. Mrs. Chen thinks you will be in 5 weeks. What if I mess up? Then you mess up in front of people instead of alone. But at least you tried. Lily bit her lip. What do you think I should do? Ethan remembered Victoria's words, remembered his mother pushing him to perform even when he was terrified, remembered that the only way to grow was to step into the fear. I think you should do it, he said. I think you should be brave. Will you be there? Front row. Promise? Promise. Lily took a deep breath. Okay, tell Mrs. Chen yes. Ethan felt a surge of pride so strong it almost hurt. That's my girl. They rode the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. Lily studied her music book. Ethan thought about the impossible kindness of strangers and the way life could shift on a single moment. When they got back to their apartment, Lily went straight to their cheap keyboard and started practicing Claire de Lune. Over and over. The mistakes didn't frustrate her this time. She just worked through them. Ethan made lunch, cleaned the apartment, did laundry. Normal Saturday things. But everything felt different now. Lighter, somehow. Around 3 p.m., his phone rang again. Victoria. He stepped into the hallway to answer. Hello? Ethan, I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all. What's up? A pause. This is going to sound strange. Okay. I was sitting in my apartment just now, looking out at the city, and I realized I've been here for 8 years and I've never actually explored Chicago. I've lived in boardrooms and offices and expensive restaurants, but I've never just walked around. Ethan wasn't sure where this was going. Okay. Do you know the city well? Pretty well, yeah. Would you be willing to show me sometime? I'll pay you for your time, of course. You don't need to pay me. Then I'll buy coffee. Ethan smiled. When? Tomorrow? Tomorrow's Sunday. Don't you have work? Victoria laughed quietly. That's exactly the problem. I always have work. Maybe it's time to remember what weekends are for. Okay, tomorrow. What time? 10? Meet at the Bean? The what? Cloud Gate, the big silver sculpture in Millennium Park. Oh. Yes, I've seen it from my office window, but never actually been. Then that's where we'll start. After they hung up, Ethan stood in the hallway for a moment, trying to figure out what just happened. A billionaire CEO just asked him to show her around the city she'd lived in for 8 years. It should have been strange. Instead, it felt right. Back inside, Lily was still practicing. She'd moved on from Claire de Lune to one of the simpler pieces from her new book. Who was that? She asked without stopping. Victoria. What did she want? She wants me to show her around Chicago tomorrow. Lily grinned without looking up from the keys. Like a date? Not a date? Sounds like a date. It's not a date. She just wants to see the city. Uh-huh. Lily, I'm just saying she's pretty and nice, and she gave me an expensive book. That doesn't make it a date. If you say so. Ethan shook his head, smiling despite himself. That night, after Lily was asleep, he sat at their small kitchen table with a cup of coffee. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sounds of the city. Sirens. Traffic. The upstairs neighbor's television. He thought about the past week, about how one moment of rebellion, sitting at a piano he wasn't supposed to touch, had somehow opened doors he didn't know existed. His phone lit up with a text. Victoria. Thank you again for today. Watching Lily play reminded me why I fell in love with music in the first place. See you tomorrow. Ethan typed back. Thank you for giving her that chance. See you at 10. He set the phone down and looked around their tiny apartment. Nothing had changed physically. They were still broke, still cramped, still struggling, but something had shifted internally. For years, Ethan had told himself that surviving was enough, that keeping Lily fed and safe and loved was sufficient, that dreams were luxuries he couldn't afford. But watching his daughter play that magnificent piano today, seeing her face light up with pure joy, he realized something important. Survival wasn't enough. Not for him. And definitely not for Lily. She deserved to dream. And maybe, just maybe, so did he. He finished his coffee and pulled out his own phone to call Mrs. Chen. She answered on the second ring. Ethan, did Robert reach you? He did. Lily said yes to the recital. Wonderful. I knew she would rise to the challenge. Mrs. Chen, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you really think she's ready, or are you pushing her too hard? Silence on the other end. Then Mrs. Chen's voice, softer than usual. Your mother used to ask me the same thing about you. Ethan's breath caught. You knew my mother? We studied together at conservatory, before life took us different directions. She talked about you constantly, about how talented you were, about how she worried she was pushing too hard. I never knew you two knew each other. She asked me to look after Lily if anything ever happened to her, made me promise years before she died. When you called looking for a piano teacher, I almost told you. but I wanted to see if Lily had the gift first. And? She does. Just like you did. Just like your mother. It runs in your blood. Ethan's eyes stung. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you both to find music on your own terms. Not because of obligation or legacy. Your mother didn't want Lily to feel pressure to be like her. She wanted Lily to be herself. But the recital is about Lily proving to herself what she's capable of, not about perfection, about courage. After they hung up, Ethan sat in the darkness for a long time, his mother's invisible hand still guiding him from beyond the grave, still pushing him toward music even when he tried to walk away. He looked at the cheap keyboard against the wall, at Lily's sheet music, at the life they'd built from fragments and hope, and he smiled. Because tomorrow he'd walk through the city with a woman who'd forgotten how to dream. Next week, Lily would practice on a piano worth more than their entire apartment. And in 5 weeks, his daughter would stand on a stage and play her heart out in front of strangers. None of it made sense. All of it felt right. Music, Ethan thought, had a way of finding you when you needed it most, even if you'd spent years trying to run away. Sunday morning came with clouds that threatened rain but never quite delivered. Ethan left Lily with their neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, who treated her like the granddaughter she never had. Lily had protested only briefly before Mrs. Rodriguez mentioned fresh empanadas and telenovelas, which was enough to win her over. "Have fun on your date," Lily called as Ethan headed out the door. "It's not a date," he called back. Mrs. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow at him. "It's not," he insisted. She just smiled and closed the door. The train downtown was half empty on Sunday morning. Ethan sat by the window watching the city pass by, wondering what exactly he was doing. Victoria Hale could have hired any professional tour guide. She could have taken a luxury bus tour. She could have done 1,000 things that didn't involve spending her Sunday with a janitor. But she'd called him. He got off at Millennium Park and walked toward Cloud Gate. The massive silver sculpture reflected the cloudy sky and the skeletal trees of late October. Even on a gray morning, it was beautiful. Victoria was already there, standing with her hands in the pockets of an expensive-looking coat. She wore jeans again and boots. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Without the armor of her business suits, she looked younger, almost uncertain. "You're early," Ethan said as he approached. She turned and smiled. "Old habit. I'm early to everything." "Control thing?" "Absolutely." They stood for a moment in slightly awkward silence. "So," Victoria said, "where do we start?" "Here's good. Have you ever actually touched the bean?" "Why would I touch it?" "Because that's what you do." He walked over and placed his palm against the smooth, cold surface. Victoria followed hesitantly, then pressed her hand beside his. "It's freezing," she said. "It's October. It's also kind of amazing. Look at how it distorts everything." They walked around to the center, where the sculpture curved inward and stretched their reflections into impossible shapes. A few tourists were taking selfies. A couple of kids were running in circles, laughing at their warped images. Victoria tilted her head, studying the way the metal bent the world. "I've looked at this from my office 1,000 times," she said. "Never realized it did this. Different perspective when you're actually in it instead of above it." She glanced at him. "Was that a metaphor?" "Maybe." They continued walking through Millennium Park, past the fountains dormant now for winter, through the gardens where the last of the fall flowers were surrendering to the cold. "Tell me about Lily's mother," Victoria said suddenly. Ethan hadn't expected that question. "Why?" "Because you're raising her alone, and I'm curious how that happened." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "Her name was Rebecca. We met when I was 21. She was working at a coffee shop, going to art school. I was working construction during the day, playing piano in bars at night." "You performed?" "A little, just to make extra money. Rebecca used to come listen. She said I played like I was telling secrets." "That's beautiful." "She was beautiful, smart, creative, everything I thought I wanted." "What happened?" "Life. We weren't ready to be parents. I mean, nobody really is, but we were especially not ready. When Lily was 2, Rebecca said she felt like she was drowning, like motherhood had stolen her identity. I tried to help, tried to take on more, but it wasn't enough." "She left?" Ethan nodded. One morning I woke up and she was gone. Left a note saying she was sorry, but she couldn't do it anymore. Sent money for the first year, then the checks stopped. Haven't heard from her in 7 years. Does Lily remember her? Barely. Sometimes she asks questions. I answer them honestly. Tell her that her mother loved her but couldn't stay. I don't know if that's true, but it feels kinder than the alternatives. They walked in silence for a while. The park opened onto Michigan Avenue, where Sunday morning shoppers were starting to emerge. Where to next? Victoria asked. You hungry? Actually, yes. Then I know a place. He led her down side streets away from the tourist areas, into neighborhoods where the buildings were older and the signs were in multiple languages. They ended up at a small diner with steam-covered windows and a faded awning. This is Lou's, Ethan said. Best breakfast in Chicago, and nobody knows about it except locals. Inside, the diner was warm and crowded. Red vinyl booths, black and white checkered floor, the smell of coffee and bacon thick in the air. Lou himself, a massive man with a gray beard and kind eyes, looked up from the grill. Ethan, haven't seen you in weeks. Been working nights? This is my friend Victoria. Lou's eyes widened slightly, clearly recognizing her, but he was gracious enough to just nod. Any friend of Ethan's gets the special treatment. Sit anywhere. They found a booth in the back. A waitress brought coffee without asking. Victoria picked up the sticky menu and smiled. I haven't been to a place like this in decades. Too fancy for diners now? Too isolated. I eat at restaurants where people are trying to impress me or meetings where food is an afterthought. This is... She looked around. This is real. Real is usually better than impressive. They ordered. Victoria got pancakes like she was a kid trying something forbidden. Ethan got his usual, eggs and hash browns. Tell me about your father, Ethan said. Victoria's expression shifted. Why? Because you mentioned he played piano. Because I'm curious how someone goes from that to this. She stirred her coffee slowly. My father was a dreamer, a musician, a poet, a terrible businessman. He tried to make it as a concert pianist but never quite got there. Ended up teaching music at a community college and playing weddings on weekends. Sounds like a good life. He thought so. My mother didn't. She wanted more. Wanted stability and security and all the things artists can't usually provide. They fought constantly about money, about his choices, about whether dreams were worth starving for. Which side were you on? Neither. Both. I loved my father's music, but I saw how it broke my mother's spirit. So I promised myself I'd never struggle like that. Never be vulnerable like that. I'd build something solid that couldn't be taken away. And you did? Yes, but my father died before he could see it. We had a fight right before. He told me I was becoming cold, that I was building walls instead of bridges. I told him he was just jealous that I succeeded where he failed. Her voice cracked slightly. Those were the last words I said to him. 3 days later, he had a heart attack, gone before I could take it back. Ethan reached across the table and covered her hand with his. He knew you loved him. How can you be sure? Because parents always know, even when we're stupid, even when we say terrible things. They know. Victoria blinked rapidly. I've never told anyone that story. Why tell me? Because you understand what it's like to lose someone and carry them with you everywhere. The food arrived, breaking the heavy moment. Victoria attacked her pancakes with surprising enthusiasm. These are incredible, she said through a mouthful. Told you. How did you find this place? Lily and I used to come here every Sunday after I got paid, back when money was even tighter than it is now. Lou would always sneak her extra bacon and tell her stories about growing up in Greece. It became our tradition. Why'd you stop? Work schedule changed. Life got complicated. You know how it goes. We should bring her next time. Ethan paused, fork halfway to his mouth. Next time. Victoria met his eyes. I'd like to do this again, if you don't mind. I don't mind at all. They finished breakfast and walked back into the gray morning. The clouds were breaking up now, letting through shafts of sunlight that turned the wet streets into mirrors. Where to now? Victoria asked. You ever been to the Art Institute? Twice, both times for fundraising galas. So you've never actually seen it. What's the difference? Everything. They walked to the museum. It was free admission on Sundays, and the halls were filled with families and students and people just looking for something beautiful on a cloudy day. Ethan led Victoria through galleries she'd walked past a dozen times during fancy events, but never actually looked at. He showed her the small details, the way light played in certain paintings, the hidden signatures, the stories behind the famous pieces. "How do you know all this?" Victoria asked. "My mother, she loved art almost as much as music, said they were different languages for the same truths. She used to bring me here when I was a kid. We'd spend whole Sundays just wandering." They stopped in front of a Monet, water lilies dissolving into light and color. "She had a print of this in our living room," Ethan said, "right above the piano. She said it reminded her that beauty doesn't have to be solid to be real." Victoria stared at the painting for a long time. "I've forgotten how to see things like this," she said quietly. "Everything in my life is about metrics and results and quantifiable success. When did I stop believing in things that can't be measured?" "Probably around the same time you stopped playing piano." "That's uncomfortably accurate." They sat on a bench in front of the painting, just looking. Around them, the museum hummed with quiet conversation and shuffling feet. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Do you ever resent it, the path your life took? Working night shifts, raising Lily alone, giving up music?" Ethan thought about it. "Sometimes, late at night, when I'm cleaning other people's offices and thinking about what might have been if my mother hadn't died, if Rebecca had stayed, if I'd made different choices. But then I go home and Lily's asleep with sheet music on her pillow, and I remember that some paths choose us." "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise the struggle doesn't mean anything." Victoria leaned back against the bench. "I built an empire, changed an entire industry, made more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And you know what I realized this week?" "What?" "I'm not sure any of it matters. Not really. Not in the way that music matters. Not in the way watching your daughter play piano matters." "You think success was a mistake?" "I think maybe I've been measuring it wrong." They left the museum as the afternoon light was starting to fade. The temperature had dropped, and Victoria pulled her coat tighter. "Want to see one more place?" Ethan asked. "Where?" "It's a surprise." He led her to the train. They rode north for 20 minutes, then got off in a neighborhood that was clearly not on any tourist map. The buildings here were older, some abandoned, but there was life too. Corner stores with signs in Polish and Spanish, kids playing basketball on cracked courts, music drifting from open windows despite the cold. "Where are we?" Victoria asked. "Where I grew up." He took her down streets that held his entire childhood, past the apartment building where he'd lived with his mother, past the corner where she'd taught him to ride a bike, past the small park where she used to sit and read while he played. They stopped in front of a church with a red door and faded white paint. "This is it," Ethan said. "What?" "Where my mother taught piano. The church let her use their basement 3 afternoons a week. She taught kids from the neighborhood for whatever their families could pay. Sometimes money, sometimes food, sometimes nothing." "Can we go in?" The door was unlocked. They descended stairs that creaked with age. The basement was exactly as Ethan remembered, low ceiling, concrete floor, and against the far wall an old upright piano that had been there for probably 50 years. Ethan walked over and ran his fingers across the keys. Out of tune, but still functional. "She died in a hospital 20 miles from here," he said, "but this is where I feel her most. In this room, with this piano." Victoria stood beside him. "Play something." "On this?" "Why not?" "It's terrible." "So what? Play it anyway." Ethan sat down on the worn bench. The leather was cracked and the height was wrong and half the keys stuck. But when he started playing, the years fell away. He played the piece his mother had loved most. Not Chopin or Debussy, something simpler. A hymn she used to play at the end of her lessons. The notes wobbled out of the battered piano, imperfect and raw. But true. Victoria closed her eyes and listened. When he finished, silence filled the basement like water. "She would have liked you," Ethan said. "How do you know?" "Because she liked people who questioned themselves. She said certainty was the enemy of growth." "She sounds wise." She was. Right up until the end, when the cancer was eating her alive, she kept teaching, kept playing. Said music was bigger than dying. Do you believe that? Ethan looked at the piano. Yeah, I do. I think the things we create outlive us. The songs we teach, the students we inspire, the moments we share. They ripple out farther than we can see. Victoria's phone buzzed. She pulled it out and frowned. I have to take this. Work emergency. On a Sunday? Emergencies don't care about calendars. She stepped away and Ethan heard her voice shift into CEO mode. Sharp, decisive, handling a crisis with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. When she returned, her expression was troubled. I have to go. There's a situation with our Singapore office that needs immediate attention. Okay. I'm sorry, this was really nice. It was. They walked back to the train in silence. The easy comfort from earlier had evaporated, replaced by the weight of Victoria's other life. At the station, she turned to him. Thank you for today, for showing me your world. Thank you for wanting to see it. Can I ask you something? Sure. If you could have anything, what would it be? Ethan didn't hesitate. A piano for Lily. A real one, so she doesn't have to practice on a keyboard that barely works. How much does a decent piano cost? More than I have. Victoria nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. I'll see you Saturday? When Lily comes to practice? We'll be there. She hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged him, quick and awkward, like someone who'd forgotten how. Thank you, she whispered. Then she was gone, disappearing into the train before he could respond. Ethan stood on the platform long after she left, trying to figure out what had just happened. They'd spent the day together, shared stories, connected over loss and music and the paths life takes. But she was still a billionaire CEO with an empire to run, and he was still a janitor with a daughter to raise. Some gaps were too wide to bridge. The thought made him sadder than it should have. When he got home, Lily was watching a movie with Mrs. Rodriguez. She jumped up as soon as he walked in. How was the date? Still not a date. Did you have fun? Yeah, Bug, we had fun. Is she nice? Very nice. Are you going to see her again? Ethan ruffled her hair. She's coming Saturday when you practice, remember? I mean, like, see her. I don't think that's how this works. Lily studied his face with those two wise eyes. You like her? I barely know her. You get a different look when you talk about her. What kind of look? Like when you talk about Grandma's piano, all soft and sad at the same time. Ethan's chest tightened. Get your pajamas on. It's bedtime. It's only 7:30. Then get ready for bed and you can read for an hour. After Lily was settled, Ethan sat on the pull-out couch and stared at the ceiling. The apartment felt smaller than usual, the walls too close, the future too uncertain. His phone buzzed. Victoria. I can't stop thinking about that basement piano, about your mother, about how she gave everything to music and students and you. I spend my days building things that will be obsolete in 10 years. She built something eternal. I'm not sure I've ever felt more like a failure. Ethan stared at the message for a long time before responding. You're not a failure. You're just measuring yourself against the wrong ruler. Your father would be proud of what you built, even if he didn't always show it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. How do you know what to say? I don't. I'm making it up as I go. Well, you're good at it. Thanks. Another pause. Ethan? Yeah? I meant what I said. I'd like to do this again. Exploring the city? Being human. Ethan smiled at his phone. Anytime. He set the phone down and closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. His mind kept replaying moments from the day. Victoria's laugh at Lou's diner, the way she looked at the Monet, her tears in the church basement, the hug at the train station. Around midnight, Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Can't sleep? Ethan asked, thinking about the recital. Nervous? Terrified. Come here. She climbed onto the couch and curled against him. What if I freeze up? She asked. Then you take a breath and start again. What if I forget the whole thing? You won't. How do you know? Because you care too much. Fear comes from caring, and caring makes you practice harder. Did Grandma tell you that? She did. Lily was quiet for a moment. Daddy? Yeah? Do you think she'd be proud of me? Ethan's throat closed. She would be so proud she'd probably embarrass you by crying in the front row. Lily giggled. Like you're going to do? Exactly like I'm going to do. She snuggled closer. I wish I could have met her. Me too, Bug. Will you tell me a story about her? Which one? The one about her first recital. Ethan smiled. He'd told this story 100 times, but Lily never got tired of it. Your grandma was 12 years old when she played her first real recital. She'd been studying for 5 years, and her teacher thought she was ready for Beethoven, but the night before, she got so nervous she threw up. Really? Really? She told her mother she couldn't do it, that she'd rather die than play in front of all those people. Her mother said, okay, you don't have to, but you'll always wonder what might have happened if you'd been brave. What did Grandma do? She played, and she made mistakes, big ones. She told me she played wrong notes all through the second movement. But when she finished, the audience still applauded, and her teacher hugged her and said, that's the hardest thing you've ever done. Everything after this will be easier. Was it? No, but she was strong enough to handle it. Lily yawned. I want to be strong like her. You already are. He carried her back to bed and tucked her in. She was asleep before he reached the door. Ethan returned to the couch, but still couldn't sleep. His mind was racing with thoughts about Victoria, about the recital, about money he didn't have and dreams he couldn't quite shake. Around 2 a.m., he gave up and went to the kitchen, made coffee, pulled out the bills that needed paying, rent due in 2 weeks, utilities overdue, Lily's piano lessons, groceries. The numbers never quite added up. He'd been thinking about picking up extra shifts, but that would mean less time with Lily, less time helping her practice. There had to be another way. His phone buzzed. Victoria again. She apparently couldn't sleep either. Are you awake? Unfortunately? Me too. Can't stop thinking. About? About how I've spent 30 years building a company, and I'm not sure I've ever felt as useful as your mother did teaching kids in a church basement. Usefulness isn't the same as value, isn't it? Your company employs thousands of people, feeds their families, changes industries. That's not nothing. But does it matter, really matter? Ethan thought about how to answer that. I think everything matters if you do it with intention. Your father's music mattered. Your mother's stability mattered. Your company matters. They're just different kinds of value. When did you become so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just tired enough that the truth sounds smart. He could almost hear her smile through the text. Get some sleep, Ethan. You too, Victoria. See you Saturday. Saturday. He finally fell asleep around 3, his phone still in his hand, dreaming of pianos and possibilities, and a woman who was learning to remember what it felt like to be human. The week crawled by with the slow agony of anticipation. Lily practiced Claire de Lune every spare moment, her small fingers working through the difficult passages with determination that bordered on obsession. Ethan would wake at 2 in the morning and hear her in the living room, the cheap keyboard wheezing out notes in the darkness. Bug, you need to sleep, he'd say from the doorway. Just 5 more minutes. You said that an hour ago. This time I mean it. She never did. By Thursday, Mrs. Chen called with concern in her voice. Lily's practicing too hard. I can hear it in her playing. The technique is there, but the soul is getting lost in the repetition. What should I do? Ethan asked. Make her rest. Music isn't about perfecting notes. It's about feeling them. She needs space to breathe. That night, Ethan made Lily put the keyboard away entirely. But the recital is 3 weeks away, she protested, which means you have time. Tonight, we're just going to be normal. What's normal? Movie, popcorn, no piano. Lily looked at him like he'd suggested they fly to the moon. I can't just stop practicing. Yes, you can. Your teacher said so. Mrs. Chen wants me to stop? She wants you to remember why you started. They watched an old musical that had been his mother's favorite. Lily fell asleep halfway through, curled against his side. Ethan carried her to bed and stood in the doorway watching her breathe, wondering how he'd gotten so lucky to have this fierce, passionate little human in his life. His phone buzzed quietly. Victoria. How's the practicing going? Too well. Had to force her to take a break. She's like you. What do you mean? Passionate about things that matter, willing to sacrifice for them. It's rare. Ethan sat on the couch, keeping his voice low. You still coming Saturday? Wouldn't miss it. I've been looking forward to it all week. Something in her tone made his chest warm. Victoria? Yeah? That day we spent together. Did it mean something to you, or was it just killing time? A long pause. It meant something, more than I expected. Good. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Me neither. Another pause, this one heavy with things unsaid. I should let you sleep, Victoria said finally. Yeah, big day Saturday. Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for seeing me as more than just a CEO. Thank you for being more than just a CEO. After they hung up, Ethan sat in the quiet darkness, his mind racing. He was falling for her. He could feel it happening, that slow gravitational pull towards someone who made the world feel bigger and smaller at the same time. But what future could they possibly have? She lived in penthouses and boardrooms. He lived in a one-bedroom apartment with a pull-out couch and bills he could barely pay. Some stories didn't get happy endings. He was still thinking about it when sleep finally came. Friday morning brought unexpected news. Ethan's supervisor at Hale Industries called him in early. Cole, we need to talk. Ethan's stomach dropped. Those words never meant anything good. He met Martin in the maintenance office, a windowless room in the basement that smelled like cleaning supplies and old coffee. Am I in trouble? Ethan asked. Martin, a tired man in his 50s who'd been managing the night crew for 20 years, shook his head. Opposite, actually. Corporate wants to move you to day shift, better hours, better pay. You'd be working facilities management instead of cleaning. Ethan blinked. Why? Apparently someone upstairs noticed you've been doing excellent work. Mentioned you specifically. Someone upstairs. Victoria. When would this start? Ethan asked carefully. 2 weeks. You interested? Day shift would mean normal hours. He could see Lily off to school in the morning, be there when she got home, help with homework, eat dinner together instead of leaving her with neighbors. The extra pay would solve so many problems, but it also felt wrong somehow, like accepting charity disguised as opportunity. Can I think about it? Ethan asked. Martin frowned. Most people would jump at this. I know. I just need to make sure it's right. You've got until Monday. Ethan spent his shift cleaning offices and wrestling with the decision. On one hand, it was everything he needed. On the other, it felt like Victoria was trying to fix his life, and he wasn't sure how he felt about that. Around 3 a.m., he found himself in the atrium standing beside the piano. He'd avoided playing it since that first morning. It felt too intimate now, weighted with memory and possibility. But tonight he needed to think, and thinking worked better with music. He sat down and played quietly, something improvised that matched his confused mood. The notes wandered without direction, searching for resolution that wouldn't come. You play differently when you're troubled. Ethan's hands froze on the keys. Victoria stood in the shadows near the elevator, wearing running clothes. Her hair was pulled back and her face was bare of makeup. What are you doing here at 3 in the morning? Ethan asked. I could ask you the same thing. I work here, and I live 2 blocks away. Couldn't sleep. Saw the lights on from my apartment. Thought I'd check. She walked closer. That's a lie, actually. I saw your cart by the elevator and hoped you might be here. Ethan's pulse quickened. Why? Because I wanted to see you. Is that allowed? I think so. I haven't checked the employee handbook. She smiled and sat beside him on the bench. Play something else. What do you want to hear? Something true. Ethan thought for a moment, then started playing a piece his mother had composed. Simple, melancholic, full of longing for things that might have been. Victoria closed her eyes and listened. When the last note faded, she spoke without opening her eyes. I offered you the day shift position. I know. Are you angry? I don't know what I am. It wasn't charity. You're good at what you do. The facilities manager mentioned you twice without prompting, said you're reliable and detail-oriented and the other workers respect you. But you pushed it. I made sure they didn't overlook you. There's a difference. Ethan's hands rested on the keys. What are we doing, Victoria? What do you mean? This. You and me. The piano, the day together, the late-night texts. What is this? She opened her eyes and looked at him. I don't know, but it feels important. Important how? Like maybe I've been sleepwalking through my life and you woke me up. That's a lot of pressure. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I feel it too. I just don't know what to do with it. Victoria reached over and took his hand. What if we don't do anything? What if we just let it be what it is? And what is it? Two people who needed to remember what it feels like to be human. Ethan looked down at their intertwined fingers. Her hand was soft, manicured. His was calloused and rough. They shouldn't have fit together, but they did. I'm scared, he admitted. Of what? That this is temporary. That you'll wake up one day and remember I'm just a janitor and you're a billionaire and this whole thing was just a beautiful mistake. Victoria's grip tightened. I'm scared too. That I'll mess this up the way I mess everything up. That I'll prioritize work over you and you'll realize I'm not worth the complication. They sat in silence for a moment. We're both idiots, Ethan said finally. Completely. So what do we do? Maybe we just take it one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just honest. I can do honest. Good. Then honestly, I need to tell you something. What? Victoria took a breath. I'm falling for you. I know it's fast and probably stupid and definitely complicated, but I can't stop it. You make me feel things I thought I'd buried forever. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. That's good. Good? Because I'm falling for you too. Have been since you sat next to me at this piano and cried over your father's music. Victoria laughed, wiping at her eyes. We're a mess. The best things usually are. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Will you take the job? If I do, it's because I earned it, not because we're whatever this is. Deal. They sat together at the piano as the building slept around them. Eventually, Ethan started playing again, soft melodies that asked questions without needing answers. Victoria stayed until the sky outside started to lighten, then reluctantly stood. I have a board meeting at 7, and I have to finish my rounds. At the elevator, she turned back. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Lily and the piano. We'll be there. And Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for being brave enough to be honest. Thank you for making it safe to be. After she left, Ethan floated through the rest of his shift. The cleaning seemed easier, the building friendlier, the future less heavy. When he got home at 7, Lily was already awake and dressed. Tomorrow's Saturday, she announced. I'm aware. Piano day. Also aware. I'm nervous. You'll be great. What if Victoria doesn't come? She'll come. Promise? Promise. Saturday morning arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. Lily was awake at 6, pacing the apartment, checking her sheet music, practicing fingerings on the kitchen table. Bug, you need to eat breakfast, Ethan said. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You can't play on an empty stomach. She forced down toast and orange juice while bouncing her knees so hard the table shook. They arrived at Hale Industries at 9:45. Marcus greeted them with a huge smile. The prodigy returns. Ms. Hale's already upstairs waiting for you. She's early, Ethan said. Been here since 9. Kept asking if you'd arrived yet. They took the elevator up, and Ethan's stomach fluttered like he was 16 again going on a first date. Victoria was sitting at the piano, playing something Ethan didn't recognize. She wore jeans and a sweater again, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked up as they approached, and her whole face lit up. There you are. I was starting to worry you'd changed your mind. Never, Lily said, already setting down her music book. How's the practicing been? Good. Hard. Scary. Those are all the right feelings. Lily climbed onto the bench and adjusted the height. Can I just play? Or do you want to hear me warm up first? Whatever feels right to you. Lily looked at her hands for a moment, took a deep breath, and started playing Clair de Lune. The first notes were tentative, but as she settled into the piece, something magical happened. The practice, the struggle, the late nights all crystallized into music that was imperfect but achingly beautiful. Ethan watched his daughter play and felt his throat tighten. This was what his mother had meant, this moment, right here. when all the sacrifice and struggle transformed into something that mattered. Victoria stood beside him, and he felt her hand slip into his. Neither of them spoke. Lily played through the entire piece with only 2 small stumbles. When she finished, she turned on the bench with shining eyes. "I did it." "You absolutely did," Victoria said. "That was stunning." "Really?" "Really. Your teacher is going to be so proud." Lily beamed. "Can I try it again? I want to fix the parts I messed up." "Of course." While Lily played through the piece a second time, Victoria pulled Ethan aside. "She's incredible." "She is. She's going to be brilliant at that recital." "I hope so." "She will be. You know why?" "Why?" "Because she has a father who believes in her. That's worth more than talent." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Thank you for all of this." "Stop thanking me. This is as much for me as for her." They watched Lily play for another hour. She worked through different pieces from her new music book, experimented with techniques, made mistakes, and laughed at them. Around 11:30, she finally looked up. "I'm hungry." "That's because you barely ate breakfast," Ethan said. "Can we go to Lou's?" Lily asked, then turned to Victoria. "Daddy took you there last week. He says you like the pancakes." Victoria smiled. "I love the pancakes. I'd be happy to go again." "Can Victoria come with us, Daddy?" "If she wants to." "I want to," Victoria said quickly. They walked to the diner through streets filled with Saturday shoppers and afternoon sunshine. Lily skipped ahead, energized by the successful practice session, chattering about the recital in school and everything else that crossed her mind. Victoria watched her with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" "About how different my life would have been if I'd had this." "Had what?" "A family, someone to come home to, a reason to exist outside of work. It's not too late." "Isn't it? I'm 52. I spent 30 years building walls instead of connections." "Walls can come down." "Can they?" "You're here right now, aren't you?" She smiled. "I am." At Lou's, they squeezed into the same booth Ethan and Victoria had used before. Lou came over personally to take their order, his eyes twinkling at the sight of them together. "The Cole family and their friend," he said warmly. "What can I get you?" Lily ordered chocolate chip pancakes. Ethan got his usual. Victoria, feeling adventurous, ordered the Greek omelet. "You look happy," Lou observed to Ethan. "I am." "Good. You deserve it." While they waited for food, Lily peppered Victoria with questions. What was it like being a CEO? Did she have any pets? What was her favorite color? Did she like movies? Victoria answered each question with surprising patience, and Ethan realized she was genuinely enjoying it. "Do you have any kids?" Lily asked. Victoria's smile faltered slightly. "No, I never did." "Why not?" "Lily," Ethan warned. "It's okay," Victoria said. "It's a fair question. I guess I was always too busy with work. I told myself I'd do it later, and then later never came." "Do you wish you had kids?" Victoria looked at Lily for a long moment. "Sometimes. Especially when I meet amazing ones like you." Lily grinned. The food arrived and they ate while Lily told stories about school and her friends and the upcoming recital. She was nervous about playing in front of people, she admitted, but excited too. "What if I mess up really bad?" she asked. "Then you keep playing," Victoria said. "That's what professionals do. They don't stop because of mistakes. They acknowledge them and move forward." "Did your dad ever mess up when he played?" "All the time. He said mistakes were just opportunities to show people you were human." "I like that." After lunch, they walked back toward the train station. The afternoon was warm for November, and the city felt alive with possibility. At the platform, Lily hugged Victoria goodbye. "Thank you for letting me play your piano. Thank you for reminding me why I have it." After Lily ran ahead to look at a street musician, Victoria turned to Ethan. "Can I see you this week?" "Not Saturday. Just us." "Like a date?" "Exactly like a date." "I'd like that." "Tuesday night? I'll pick you up at 7. "You don't know where I live." "Text me the address." She kissed his cheek quickly, then headed toward her own train before he could respond. Ethan stood there with his hand on his cheek, grinning like an idiot. That was definitely a date thing, Lily said, reappearing at his side. Shut up. Are you dating Victoria Hale? Maybe. That's so cool. It's complicated. Love usually is. Who taught you that? Mrs. Rodriguez. She watches a lot of telenovelas. Monday morning, Ethan accepted the day shift position. He started the following week, and the change was immediate. Suddenly, he had mornings with Lily, evenings together, weekends that didn't involve sleeping through the day. The extra money meant he could finally catch up on bills, buy groceries without calculating every dollar, let Lily order dessert at the diner without worrying about the cost. Life felt lighter. Tuesday evening, Victoria picked him up in a car that cost more than he'd make in 5 years. Lily watched from the window, waving enthusiastically. Where are we going? Ethan asked as he got in. It's a surprise. She drove them to the Symphony, not a fundraising gala or corporate event, just a regular Tuesday night performance that normal people attended. They sat in the middle section, surrounded by music students and elderly couples and people who loved classical music for no reason except that it moved them. The orchestra played Rachmaninoff, and Ethan watched Victoria close her eyes and get lost in the music the same way she had at the piano. Afterward, they walked through the city, talking about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their dreams, the strange path that had brought them together. I told the board I'm cutting back my hours, Victoria said. What did they say? That I'm crazy, that the company needs me, that I'm being irresponsible. What did you tell them? That I've given them 30 years and I'm taking some back for myself. How did that go over? About as well as you'd expect, but I don't care. For the first time in decades, I actually don't care what they think. She stopped walking and turned to face him. I want to try this. Really try. I know it's complicated and probably stupid, but I can't remember the last time something felt this right. Ethan pulled her close. I want to try too. Even though I'm a disaster at relationships? Even though I have nothing to offer you except a daughter and a one-bedroom apartment? That's everything I want. He kissed her there on the sidewalk, surrounded by the noise and chaos of the city, and felt something click into place that he hadn't realized was missing. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Ethan worked his new schedule and came home to Lily every evening. They practiced together, ate dinner together, lived the normal life he'd been dreaming of for years. Victoria came over twice for dinner, squeezing into their tiny kitchen and insisting on helping cook despite having no idea what she was doing. She and Lily bonded over music and terrible cooking and a shared love of old movies. Ethan watched them together and felt his heart expand beyond what he thought possible. The night before the recital, Lily couldn't sleep. Ethan found her at midnight, sitting in the dark living room, staring at the keyboard. Talk to me, he said, sitting beside her. What if I disappoint everyone? You won't. But what if I do? Then we'll love you anyway. That's what family does. Lily leaned against him. Is Victoria family now? The question caught him off guard. Would you want her to be? Yeah, I really would. She makes you happy, and she gets the music thing. Plus, she's really nice, even though she tries to act tough. Ethan smiled. Yeah, she does make me happy. Then she's family. It's not quite that simple, Bug. Why not? Because adult relationships are complicated. Sounds like an excuse. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just notice now because I'm right. He laughed and ruffled her hair. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. Will you play me something like Grandma used to play for you? Ethan's chest tightened. He hadn't told Lily those stories in detail, but somehow she knew. He sat at the keyboard and played the lullaby his mother used to play. Simple. Sweet. Full of love that outlived death. Lily was asleep before he finished. He carried her to bed and stood in the doorway watching her breathe, this fierce little human who'd given his life meaning when he thought there was none left to find. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Can't sleep, nervous for tomorrow. You're not the one performing. I know, but I care about Lily and you. I want this to go well. It will. She's ready. I hope so. I'll be there, front row next to you. I'm counting on it. Ethan? Yeah? I love you. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do. Ethan stared at the message, his heart pounding. He'd been feeling it for weeks, but hadn't had the courage to say it. I love you too. Have since the moment you sat next to me at that piano and let yourself be human. Good. Now get some sleep. We have a recital to survive. Good night, Victoria. Good night, Ethan. He fell asleep smiling, dreaming of music and family and futures he hadn't dared to hope for. Tomorrow, Lily would play her heart out on a stage, and whatever happened, they'd face it together, all three of them. A family built from broken pieces and beautiful music and the courage to try again. The morning of the recital dawned cold and gray, with the November wind rattling the apartment windows like nervous fingers on piano keys. Ethan woke to find Lily already dressed in the blue dress she'd worn to Hale Industries that first Saturday, sitting on the edge of the couch with her hands folded in her lap. "How long have you been up?" he asked. "Since 5. "Bug, the recital isn't until 2. "I know. I couldn't sleep." He sat beside her and pulled her close. "You're going to be amazing." "You have to say that." "I mean it." She looked up at him with those serious brown eyes. "What if I freeze? What if my hands shake so bad I can't play? What if everyone laughs?" "Then I'll stand up and applaud anyway. And Victoria will too. And Mrs. Chen and everyone who loves you will remind you that trying is braver than being perfect." Lily leaned her head against his shoulder. "I wish Grandma could be there." Ethan's throat tightened. "She will be. Every time you touch those keys, she's there." They spent the morning trying to distract Lily from her nerves. Breakfast that she barely touched. A movie she couldn't focus on. Finally, around noon, Ethan suggested they go early. "To the recital hall?" "Yeah, get familiar with the space, see the piano, make it less scary." Mrs. Chen had arranged the recital at a beautiful old theater on the north side of the city. It seated maybe 300 people, with velvet seats and a stage that glowed under warm lights. When they arrived, Mrs. Chen was already there, directing students and parents with military precision. "Lily," she called out, "come, I'll show you backstage." While Lily disappeared with her teacher, Ethan stood in the empty theater and felt the weight of the moment. In a few hours, his daughter would stand on that stage and face her fear, and there was nothing he could do but watch and believe in her. Impressive space. He turned to find Victoria standing in the aisle, elegant in a simple black dress and coat. "You're early," he said. "Couldn't stay away." "How's she doing?" "Terrified." "Good. Fear means she cares." Victoria walked down to the front row and sat, looking up at the empty stage. "I remember my first recital. I was 8, played a simple Mozart piece, made it halfway through before I completely forgot what came next. Sat there for what felt like an hour, just staring at the keys." "What did you do?" "My father stood up in the audience and started singing the melody. Everyone thought he was crazy. But I remembered the notes and finished the piece." "Did he get in trouble?" "The organizers were furious. But I didn't care. He saved me." Ethan sat beside her. "I wish I could save Lily like that." "You already have. Every day. Just by being there." She took his hand. "I have something to tell you. I was going to wait until after, but I think you should know now." "What?" "I'm stepping down as CEO." Ethan stared at her. "What?" "Not immediately. I'll transition over the next 6 months, but I told the board yesterday. I'm done. Victoria, you can't just walk away from your company." "I'm not walking away. I'm choosing something else. I'm choosing a life that actually feels like living." "But your father's legacy." "My father would want me to be happy. It took me 30 years to understand that success and happiness aren't the same thing. I was successful and miserable. I want to try the other way." "What will you do?" She smiled. "I don't know yet. Maybe teach business at a university. Maybe start a foundation for music education. Maybe just take a year to figure out who I am when I'm not working 80 hours a week." "This is because of me?" "This is because of you and Lily and that piano and remembering what it feels like to be human. You didn't make me do anything. You just reminded me I had a choice." Before Ethan could respond, Lily appeared from backstage, her face pale. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can," Victoria said firmly. "No, I really can't. I'm going to throw up." "That's normal. Your grandmother threw up before her first recital, too." Lily looked at Ethan. "Really?" "Really. And she played anyway, and it was beautiful." "But what if—" "No more what ifs." Victoria interrupted. You've practiced for weeks. You know this piece. Now you just have to trust yourself. I don't know if I can. Victoria stood and walked over to Lily, kneeling down to her level. Do you know why your father works so hard? Why he took a job cleaning buildings at night so you could have piano lessons? Lily shook her head. Because he believes you have something special, something worth sacrificing for. And you know what? He's right. I've heard you play, Lily. You have a gift. Not because you're perfect, but because you're honest. When you play, people feel something real. That's rare. What if I let everyone down? You won't. But even if you did, your father would still be proud. I'd still be proud. Because trying is the bravest thing you can do. Lily wiped her eyes. Promise you'll both be there? Front row, center, Ethan said. The whole time? The whole time. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway. 30 minutes, everyone. Students need to prepare. Lily hugged Ethan tightly, then surprised them both by hugging Victoria too. Thank you, she whispered. You're going to be wonderful, Victoria whispered back. They watched Lily disappear backstage again, then returned to their seats as the theater began to fill. Parents and grandparents and friends filed in, the excited murmur of anticipation building. Ethan's leg bounced nervously. Victoria placed her hand on his knee. She'll be fine. I know. I just wish I could do it for her. That's every parent's struggle. Wanting to protect them from the fear, but knowing they need to walk through it themselves. How do you know so much about parenting when you've never had kids? I pay attention, and I had a father who loved me even when I didn't deserve it. The lights dimmed. Mrs. Chen walked onto the stage and welcomed everyone. She explained the program, reminded audience members to silence their phones, and introduced the first student. A tiny 6-year-old boy marched out and played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star with fierce concentration. The audience applauded warmly. Then came a teenage girl who played Chopin with technical precision but little emotion. Then a middle schooler who stumbled through a Beethoven sonatina but recovered gracefully. Each performance was met with enthusiastic applause. This was a supportive audience. They knew these students were learning, growing, trying. Lily was scheduled to play 7th, right after the intermission. The first half of the recital felt interminable. Ethan couldn't focus on the other performances, couldn't stop his mind from racing through everything that could go wrong. Finally, intermission. Victoria squeezed his hand. Breathe. I'm breathing. No, you're hyperventilating. Actually breathe. He forced himself to take slow, deep breaths. The lights dimmed again. The second half began. 2 more students played. Both did well. The audience was warm and encouraging. Then Mrs. Chen stepped onto the stage. Our next performer is Lily Cole. She's been studying piano for 2 years and will be playing Debussy's Clair de Lune. Ethan's heart stopped. Lily walked onto the stage in her blue dress, looking impossibly small against the vastness of the space. She sat at the piano bench and adjusted the height. From where Ethan sat, he could see her hands trembling. She placed her fingers on the keys and froze. 5 seconds passed. 10. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Ethan started to stand, but Victoria grabbed his arm. Wait, she whispered. Lily closed her eyes, took a breath, and began to play. The opening notes of Clair de Lune floated through the theater, delicate and tentative. Lily's hands were still shaking, but the notes came out pure. Ethan gripped the armrest so hard his knuckles turned white. Lily played through the first section carefully, methodically. When she reached the passage that had given her so much trouble in practice, she slowed down even more. But she didn't stop. The music built, the familiar melody weaving through the theater like moonlight through water. Some notes were hesitant. The rhythm wavered in places. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Ethan could hear his mother in those notes, could hear all the late-night practice sessions, could hear Lily's determination and fear and hope all mixed together. The piece moved into the middle section, where the melody became more complex. Lily's brow furrowed in concentration, her tongue poked out slightly, just like it did when she practiced at home. She missed a note, recovered, kept going. The audience was silent, completely absorbed. Victoria's hand found Ethan's again and squeezed. The music swelled toward the climax, those sweeping runs that sounded like waves crashing on a shore. Lily played them with increasing confidence, her fear giving way to the muscle memory of hundreds of practice hours. And then, the final section, the melody returning, softer now, contemplative, the notes floating away like a dream dissolving into morning. Lily played the last chord and held it, letting it resonate through the theater. Then silence. She lifted her hands from the keys and looked out at the audience with uncertain eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ethan stood and started clapping. Victoria stood beside him, applauding. Mrs. Chen stood from her seat in the second row. And suddenly, the entire audience was on its feet, applauding a 10-year-old girl who'd just conquered her fear and played her heart out. Lily's face broke into a huge smile. She stood and bowed, then practically ran off the stage. Ethan and Victoria rushed to meet her backstage. Lily flew into Ethan's arms, and he caught her, lifting her off the ground. "I did it," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was so scared, but I did it." "You were amazing," Ethan said, his own voice thick with emotion. "So amazing." "I messed up in the middle part." "Nobody cared. You were beautiful." Victoria hugged them both. "That was one of the most courageous things I've ever witnessed." Mrs. Chen appeared, her usually stern face soft with pride. "Lily, that was excellent. You stayed present through your fear. That's the mark of a true musician." "Really? Really? Your grandmother would have been very proud." The rest of the recital passed in a blur. More students played, parents congratulated each other. Mrs. Chen gave a closing speech about the importance of persistence and passion. But Ethan barely registered any of it. He kept looking at Lily, at the joy radiating from her, at the confidence that came from doing something terrifying and surviving. After the recital, they went to Lou's to celebrate. Lou brought out a special dessert on the house, a massive sundae with enough ice cream for all three of them. "To Lily," Victoria said, raising her water glass. "The bravest pianist I know." They clinked glasses and dug into the sundae. Lily chattered non-stop about the recital, replaying every moment, analyzing every note. The fear was gone now, replaced by the exhilaration of achievement. "Can I play in another recital?" she asked. "Absolutely," Ethan said. "And can I keep practicing at the fancy piano on Saturdays?" Victoria smiled. "For as long as you want." "Even after you're not CEO anymore?" Victoria blinked. "How did you know about that?" "I heard you talking before, about stepping down." "Does that bother you?" Lily thought about it. "No, you should do what makes you happy. Being a CEO sounds really stressful." Victoria laughed. "It is. Very stressful. So what are you going to do instead?" "I'm not entirely sure yet, but I have some ideas." She glanced at Ethan. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you both about something." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Okay." Victoria took a breath. "I've been thinking a lot about what matters, about legacy and family and the things we leave behind. And I realized I've spent 30 years building a company, but I haven't built a life. I want to change that." She looked at Lily. "You asked me once if I wished I'd had kids. The truth is, I do. I wish I'd been brave enough to want that earlier, but I can't change the past." Then she looked at Ethan. "But maybe I can change the future if you'll let me." Ethan's heart hammered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to be part of this, part of your family, not just someone who shows up on Saturdays. I want to be there for school plays and piano recitals and normal Tuesday dinners. I want to try being part of something real." Lily's eyes were huge. "Like you want to be my mom?" Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "If you'd want that, I know I can't replace your mother, and I'd never try. But maybe I could be someone who loves you and supports you and shows up when it matters." Lily looked at Ethan. "Can she, Daddy?" Ethan felt tears stinging his eyes. "What do you think, Bug?" "I think yes. Definitely yes." She turned to Victoria. "But I'm still going to call you Victoria. Mom feels weird." Victoria laughed through her own tears. "Victoria is perfect." Lily threw her arms around Victoria's neck, and Ethan watched the woman he loved hold his daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. Lou appeared with fresh coffee, took one look at them all crying, and just smiled. "Love looks good on you three," he said quietly. That night, after Lily was finally asleep, exhausted from the day's excitement, Ethan and Victoria sat on the fire escape outside his apartment looking at the city lights. Are you sure about this? Ethan asked. About us? About stepping into this messy, complicated life? Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. I've never been more sure of anything. For 30 years, I thought success meant conquering everything, building higher, working harder, never showing weakness. But you taught me that real success is connection, is being honest enough to be vulnerable, is choosing love even when it's terrifying. It is terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? The best terrifying. She turned to face him. I love you, Ethan Cole. I love your daughter. I love the life you've built from nothing but determination and hope. And I want to build something with you. Not a company, not an empire, just a family. Ethan kissed her, soft and deep, pouring everything he felt into that moment. I love you too. So much it scares me. Good. We'll be scared together. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe. I have something for you, Victoria said finally. Well, for Lily, but really for both of you. What? It's being delivered tomorrow. I wanted to wait until after the recital to tell you. Victoria, what did you do? She smiled mysteriously. You'll see. The next morning, Ethan woke to pounding on the door. He stumbled over in his pajamas and found two delivery men with a massive crate. Delivery for Cole residents? I think you have the wrong address. This is apartment 4B? Yes, but then it's the right address. Where do you want it? Lily appeared in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. What's happening? I have no idea. It took the men 20 minutes to get the crate inside and unpacked. When they finally pulled away the packaging, Ethan's breath caught. It was a piano, not a cheap keyboard, not a practice piano. A real professional quality upright piano. Beautiful mahogany wood, perfect ivory keys, the kind of instrument his mother had dreamed of owning. Taped to the music stand was a note in Victoria's handwriting. Every musician deserves an instrument worthy of their talent. This belonged to my father. I've had it in storage for 20 years, too afraid to touch it, because it reminded me of everything I'd lost. But Lily reminded me that music isn't about holding on to the past. It's about creating the future. This piano should be played. It should be loved. And I can't think of better hands to hold it than yours. With love, Victoria. Ethan sank onto the bench, tears streaming down his face. Lily climbed up beside him and pressed middle C. The note rang out, pure and perfect, filling their small apartment with sound. It's beautiful, Lily whispered. It is. Can I try Claire de Lune on it? I think your grandmother would like that. Lily began to play, the melody they both knew by heart now, and Ethan closed his eyes and listened. He heard his mother in those notes. He heard Victoria's father. He heard all the dreams and sacrifices and choices that had led to this moment. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Did it arrive? Yes. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll let me come over for dinner tonight and every night after. Say you'll let me try to be part of this beautiful, messy family. Say you'll teach me how to cook something besides takeout. Say you'll marry me someday when we're both ready. Say yes to all of it. Ethan laughed through his tears. Yes, to all of it, yes. 6 months later, on a warm spring Saturday, they gathered in the atrium of Hale Industries for an unusual event. The building was closed for renovations, Victoria having finally stepped down as CEO and turned the company over to her carefully chosen successor. But she'd made one request before leaving, one last event in the space that had changed everything. The atrium was filled with people, employees past and present, students from the neighborhood music program Victoria had started, Lou from the diner, Mrs. Chen and her students, Marcus from security, Mrs. Rodriguez and her family, and in the center, at the grand piano, sat Lily. She wore a white dress and her hair was pulled back with the same clip from her first recital. But she wasn't nervous this time. She was confident. Beside her on the bench sat Victoria, elegant and relaxed in a way she never had been as CEO. And standing beside the piano was Ethan, looking at the two people he loved most in the world. Mrs. Chen raised her hand for silence. Today we celebrate music. We celebrate family. We celebrate the courage it takes to be honest in a world that often rewards pretending. Lily Cole will perform, accompanied by Victoria Hale. But first, I'd like Ethan to say a few words. Ethan hadn't prepared a speech. hadn't even known he'd be asked to speak. But as he looked around at all these faces, at this community that had formed around something as simple as a janitor playing piano, he knew what to say. My mother used to tell me that music is the language we use when words aren't enough. When I lost her, I thought I'd lost the music too. I spent years just surviving, just getting through, telling myself that was enough. But then I sat at this piano one morning because I needed to remember what it felt like to be human. And everything changed. He looked at Victoria. I found love, I found family, I found courage I didn't know I had, all because I was brave enough to play one song. He looked at Lily. My daughter taught me that dreams don't die, they just wait. They wait for us to be brave enough to try again. He looked at the crowd. So thank you, all of you, for reminding me that the things we create together are bigger than the things we achieve alone. For showing up, for believing in music and magic and second chances. The crowd applauded. Lily grinned at him. Ready? Victoria asked her. Ready. Together, they began to play. Not Claire de Lune this time, something new. A duet Victoria's father had written years ago that had never been performed publicly. Lily played the melody with confidence born from months of practice and love. Victoria played the harmony, her hands no longer trembling, no longer afraid. The music filled the atrium, transforming the corporate space into something warm and human and alive. Ethan stood beside the piano and watched his family play. His daughter, who'd inherited her grandmother's gift and her father's determination. His future wife, who'd traded an empire for something real. And somewhere he felt his mother's presence too. In the notes, in the joy, in the legacy that had passed from her hands to his to Lily's. The music built to its climax, both players completely in sync, creating something beautiful together. When the final chord faded, there was a moment of perfect silence. Then the atrium erupted in applause. People stood, cheered, wiped their eyes. Lily and Victoria stood and bowed together, then pulled Ethan into a hug. We did it, Lily whispered. You did it, Ethan corrected. No, Victoria said, we all did it, together. Later, as the crowd mingled and celebrated, Ethan found himself standing alone by the windows, looking out at the city. Victoria appeared beside him, slipping her hand into his. What are you thinking about? She asked. About how one moment can change everything? How sitting at this piano that morning led to all of this? Do you regret it? Any of it? Not even a little. Good, because I have a proposal. Another one? She laughed. Not that kind, though we should probably set a date for that soon. What kind then? I want to turn this building into a music school, free lessons for kids who can't afford them, performance space, practice rooms, everything my father dreamed of but never got to build. That's beautiful. I want you to help me run it. And before you say you're not qualified, remember that qualifications matter less than passion. You understand what music means to people who have nothing else. That's what these kids need. Ethan looked at the atrium, imagining it filled with students and music and possibility. Yes, he said. Absolutely yes. And Lily can teach beginner students when she's older. If she wants. She'll want. They stood together, watching their family and friends celebrate, watching the future unfold before them like a melody waiting to be played. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. For what? For being brave enough to see me, for remembering how to be human, for loving us. Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you for playing the piano that morning, for breaking the rules, for showing me that the best things in life are the ones we're brave enough to reach for, even when they seem impossible. Lily ran over, breathless and excited. Mrs. Chen says I can start teaching little kids next year. Can I, Daddy? If you want to. I really want to. I want to be like Grandma. I want to give people music. Ethan pulled her close, Victoria's arm around them both. Then that's exactly what you'll do. Outside, the spring sun broke through the clouds, sending light streaming through the glass atrium. The piano sat silent now, waiting for the next person brave enough to sit down and play, waiting for the next story to begin. Because music, like love, never really ends. It just finds new voices to carry it forward, new hands to shape it, new hearts to feel it. And in a building that used to be filled with nothing but numbers and ambition, there was now laughter and music and family and hope. All because a janitor played a piano he wasn't supposed to touch. All because a CEO remembered how to cry. All because a little girl believed in magic. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to reach for something impossible, the universe reaches back.